This is Rating Descending,
where we watch IMDb's Worst 250 so you don't have to.
My name is Abigail Ward.
And I'm Michelle St. Clair.
And tonight we watched Supergirl. After losing a powerful orb, Kara Zor-El, Superman's cousin, comes to Earth to retrieve it and instead finds herself up against a wicked witch. Let's watch. Tonight I am drinking a delicious homemade mojito because I am celebrating a new job. What are you drinking, Michelle?
Well, last episode I was drinking a Wayward Brewery's Sourade, which is Powerade meets a sour beer.
That's fun.
And the flavor was Blueberry Blast beer or something.
Yummy.
But I'm not drinking anything. Maybe I should drink some. No, I'm not drinking anything this episode because last time I drank something, it made me really sad.
Oh, why?
I don't know. I think I've even mentioned on the podcast, I have a up and down relationship with alcohol. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, it's fun. And then sometimes I'm like, if I'm feeling a little sad, it'll just make me a little too sad.
Oh my God, I 100% agree. I think I've been really careful with alcohol because I don't drink it anymore if I know I'm in a bad mood or if I've had a tough time. Like if I've had a down day and I'm invited to drink alcohol, I'm getting to that point in my life where I'm saying no because I know that I'll end up crying. And like alcohol just intensifies your emotions. So if you already know you're in a shitty place, you don't want to pick up a fucking can of beer or a glass of wine and drink into it because it'll just make it feel worse in 3 hours. Well done, Michelle. You get a little badge from Abigail's School of Soberism.
Oh, thank you.
Where would you like the badge?
Wow. My belly button.
No. It goes on your clothes, not your skin.
Oh, the part of my shirt that hangs over my belly button.
You've got a real naval fantasy going on here, Michelle, but I'll oblige.
Well, it's more that I wanted that the first time, and then this is the closest approximate. It's not a whole thing.
No, you're a navel fetishist, and now we know that. Thank you for divulging.
I mean, I do love a good soft tummy, but that doesn't necessarily make it a fetish. Liking a body part isn't what a fetish is.
You have a sexuality. That's gross, and I condemn it.
I mean, you joke, but that is sometimes what discourse on Twitter feels like. It's like... people had sex adjacent to a piece of media I consumed. That's fucked up.
Nice. Fair enough. What media are you consuming at the moment, Michelle?
Excellent fucking pivot. Love it. The other night, my girlfriend and I watched a couple movies because of the nature of this list, like this whole podcast.
Wait. You have a girlfriend?
Okay. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Brooke.
Oh my
You've
God.
met her.
That's so cute.
You lived together for over a year.
That's so
I was
hot.
there. Because of the nature of this podcast, we've both joked before, like this is the majority by far of movies that I've never watched this many movies this consistently in my life since I was like 17.
At least in this way you are assured to watch a movie per week. It's a nice agenda to stick by.
Like I'm watching things all the time, but it's like specifically new content rather than defaulting to rewatching things. And so I've been much more conscientious since having slightly more free time to go like, let's watch a movie instead of allowing myself to just continue to watch whatever is already on, like allowing the inertia of the evening to continue. I've been showing my girlfriends Indiana Jones, which has been good because she's never seen them.
You've got more than one girlfriend? That's
No. Brooke just has several forms. Like when you met her, that wasn't even her final form.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty hot. Like it's
Digimon.
fucking
are you
hot.
talking about Digimon or are you talking about Dragon Ball Z?
I mean, that was a reference to Dragon Ball Z.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
With Frieza in particular.
Got it. Love it.
In Digimon, they do have multiple forms, but that's because it's Digivolution. It's, different forms in a much different way, whereas Frieza's different forms were to do with like power scaling. I guess they're similar. Is Frieza a Digimon?
I think that we should start calling transitioning as like becoming your final form. That's what I think it should be called from now on.
I like that.
My final and truest form.
I think of it, sometimes I've thought of it as like in Pokemon, how they evolve. Because before I was like a dirty, filthy little worm. And then now I am a slightly cleaner, filthy little butterfly.
You were a worm. You were. I have also been reading Boswell's Life of Samuel Johnson, and it's fucking amazing.
What?
So you know Samuel Johnson, the guy that wrote the dictionary. He wrote a lot of like...
What?
Samuel Johnson...
It sounds like you're doing a bit I'm not included on. I don't know who that is, and I didn't know he wrote the dictionary.
So Samuel Johnson was like
I assume you mean not the dictionary.
He was an intellectual and a writer of poetry and prose from like the 18th century, and when he was in his 30s, 40s, he was commissioned to... He was what they call a lexicographer. And he was like really into collecting words. Someone commissioned him to write a dictionary because they didn't have a very good modern English one. They barely had anything. So he spent 7 years writing a modern English dictionary, and he is credited as one of the first to ever write a modern English dictionary. And then 150 years later, we got the Oxford Dictionary. So Johnson's dictionary was referred to for 150 years. And
wow, you really weren't doing a bit. He really wrote the dictionary.
Yeah. And I've always been
by the way, if
Samuel Johnson is a character in Blackadder the Third. And
to be fair, by the way, if you didn't live in a world with a dictionary, it would be a weird idea. It's like, can you make a book, a difficult resource to make of just like every word? We don't have a resource of them, so if you could just like define every word, that would be great.
Well, I mean, like in the episode of Blackadder, he is this guy that's walking around scribbling down words he can remember so that he can then go back and do a definition of them. But yeah, I mean...
Right, Samuel, can you write every word?
Well, in Blackadder, Samuel Johnson is portrayed by like Robbie Coltrane, who has turned out to be a bit of a... and what's her name? I can't even remember her name anymore.
J.K. Rowling?
J.K. Rowling sympathizer, which is sad.
Yeah.
He's a J.K. Rowling apologist. But Samuel Johnson wrote the dictionary, and this guy called Boswell, this Scotsman who followed him around and was also his own writer, but not very prolific, he came out with his own biography of Samuel Johnson, and it is hailed as the best biography ever created and ever written. And I'm reading it at the moment, and I swear to God, Michelle, it's like this thick. And by the way, listeners, when I motion this thick, I am referring to roughly maybe like the size of your iPhone in terms of width, not length, but like width across.
Yeah, like full dick size.
Full dick size. This is absolute the standard dick size. It's huge. It's a huge fat book, but I'm loving it so much, and I'm really enjoying going through it. And I feel like I'm being slowly educated to the whims and fancies of Samuel Johnson. I want to read everything that he read, and I want to know every word that he knew, which is a dictionary's worth apparently.
Yeah, just read the dictionary. You'll understand it.
Yeah, that's right. That's absolutely right. It's educational, but I'm loving it.
Nice. That's good.
No, we're done. I don't actually want to talk about this film anymore. Bye, Michelle.
Oh. No.
Speaking of Samuel Johnson... No, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
There's no relation. Speaking
one of the weirder pivots.
lexicography, I'm just kidding. There's no relation. Speaking of dictionary, I'm just kidding. There's an absolute...
What are you speaking of, Abigail? Huh?
What?
What are you speaking of? What are you speaking of?
Well, actually, speaking of the... things that we enjoyed, here's something that we did not enjoy.
I
made it. I really pivoted.
Your deft movement through language is astounding to behold. How did you do it?
Well, the definition of pivot, according to Samuel Johnson's dictionary.
Oh my God. Right, the definition of pivot is go from one to the other.
Actually, what is the definition of pivot according to Samuel?
Don't look it up now. This is not good radio.
I want to know.
You looking up the dictionary is not good radio.
What? It's not even in Johnson's dictionary. That's bullshit. Speaking of things we didn't enjoy, this week we watched Supergirl.
Nice.
The 1984 film and follow-up to Superman 1, Superman 2, Superman 3, and then preceding Superman 4.
Yeah. I didn't realize it came before Superman 4.
It did. It was wedged.
Which, by the way, you mentioned it came out in 1984. I already knew that just because it's one of those movies that when you look up on IMDb, it'll particularly tell you the date because, like, there's multiple films with the same name.
Yeah.
When you watch it, you really don't feel it. It definitely feels like it could have been made at least a decade, maybe even 2 before.
It's incredible. The production value of it is just stunningly low.
Shockingly, even just the style of filmmaking in general felt decidedly late 60s. I'm like, I've seen episodes of The Goodies that looked like this.
It was shockingly, like, I think obviously we watched a low quality version of it, which doesn't matter to me at all. But even if it was high quality version, like even if it was a high quality version, there are shots of Supergirl flying through the air as expected, and you can really just see the wires. You can see how she's dangling. It's not effective. Yeah. It looks stupid.
I understand the limitations of like rear projection technology. Oh, sorry. For that? Okay, well, at least listeners, Abby very firmly put up her finger to the Zoom call, intimating me to stop so that she could fully burp into the microphone. Hey, it's been a few weeks, you know? We got to give the audience
yeah, I've really stored that one for you. I think that's a gift to the listeners.
Okay. Hereby guaranteeing you burp again.
Oh yeah, baby.
I understand the limitations of like rear projection technology versus modern green screen and stuff. Like, I don't mind that the style of VFX is old, but it is decidedly cheap and bad.
It's not a good time. Not a good time at all. But overall with this film, I mean, like, I actually watched this, and I was lucky too. I watched this with Tony today. Like, we both watched it so we could talk about it because Tony loves Superman. Tony is our good friend, and he knows a lot about the DC universe. So he watched it, and then he told me a bit about what he knows about Superman. And it was really interesting getting that insight. But what we can conclude is that this film, plot-wise, was absolutely fucking bonkers because there's little to no explanation about a lot of the characters, about how people know certain things, about how people develop certain things. Like, Supergirl becomes a Supergirl with really very little practice. She almost seems unsurprised that she becomes a Supergirl.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just so befuddled the entire time. I had to keep referring to the plot and I was still lost.
I've complained about many of the episodes about them taking way too long to get into it. Notably, 2 weeks ago with Look Who's Talking Now, them taking 30 minutes to buy a dog. This had a different approach in that a fucking open frame. You're in inner space in a strange crystal contraption. Someone is referring to the, what was it, like the Omega Hedron, and moving through the dimensional quarters. Oh, but Zal-El's daughter, Kara, is on the loose, and you can create life. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
They launch you into the deep end with this film. I had to stop and restart. I'm not even kidding. I stopped and restarted that sequence 3 times so I could fully listen and understand what was going on, because I was like, we're in a spaceship. I don't know who these people are. Peter O'Toole is here. Our main lead is already here, and she's already lost something very vital to these people, and I don't understand why it's vital. I had to go back and rewatch it 3 times to understand the opening sequence, because there just wasn't a clear enough explanation of who people were, what was going on, what was important, what the premise was. But it really, like, as you say, like, we've complained a lot about films taking a long time to start off. This film starts really quickly. It really thrusts you into the deep end. But the problem with this film is that the plot is nonsensical. It is nonsensical.
Yeah. It is not, there is a lot that they explained in the opening, and I feel like despite the blitz of confusion, I mostly get it. One thing that's not signposted, she loses this glowing orb, the Omega Hedron, it flies out of the spaceship, which, by the way, the exterior of the spaceship seems to be made of cellophane.
Yeah.
Like, it's the most flimsy material that she almost gets sucked through it.
Yeah.
They're then going, hey, if we don't get the Omega Hedron back, this whole place, we're all going to die.
Yeah.
And she, ignoring that, so she's not hearing that, goes to this little egg pod spaceship out of just wonder and mischief and gets into it and gets propelled out into space.
Hey now. And then hey. I haven't done the overview yet. You're really spoiling this.
I'm sorry. Well, what I was just gonna say is just the specific bit of that. What was the leader's name? Like the Peter O'Toole character.
His name is actually. I had it written down. Let me just find it again. Everything ends with you know how like Superman's real name is like Kal-El or something? Yeah, so her name is Kara Zor-El, and Peter O'Toole's character is Jor-El. Oh, no, hang on. Zoltar.
Jor-El, Superman's dead. Zoltar. Yeah, Zoltar then turns to Kara's parents and goes, "Your death will be swift, but I in the Phantom Zone will be in pain forever." And I'm like, wait, did she condemn all these people? It is not established until like 60 minutes later that she is trying to save them. It's very weird.
It's so weird. Essentially, it's almost like it's like Zoltar knows that he'll be condemned immediately for what Kara does. But I'm going to jump into the overview now because I feel like when I get it out of the way, we can talk more about this, because the overview and the plot of this film is really simple. It's just really confusing at first because you need to know the lore of like this world. And again, I reiterate, this is set after the third Superman. At this point, Krypton has been destroyed and destructed. And that was really confusing for Tony because he was like, I don't understand where they are. It's not explicitly explained, but we figured out what the fuck was going on. So this is my little overview, and I'm proud of it because I kept it very brief. Kara is the cousin of Superman and lives on Argo City, a commune of survivors from Krypton. This is vital because they are a commune of survivors living in a one-off city that is floating through space. And that is the story of them. Yeah, I know.
Right. That makes way more sense. Does your overview include how they all already know Superman? Because she explicitly knows a lot about Superman, not Kal-El.
Well, she is the cousin of him, so she knows what's going on Earth because he returns to Krypton many times.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
okay. I thought he was
Superman,
exclusively Earthbound.
So Tony explained a lot to me about the Superman lore, which I can go into with you later, because I am so ignorant to the Superman lore and the Superman universe. But essentially, like in the Superman 1, 2, and 3, he does... People from Krypton and from Argo City understand what is happening to him on Earth. So they know the story of him. When Kara loses the Omegadron, a device that powers Argo City, so without it, their little commune will fall apart, she must pursue it to Earth, where a witch called Selena finds it. Kara, now going by Linda Lee, enrolls at an all-girls school and meets Lois Lane's sister Lucy. A groundskeeper at the school named Ethan, a super hunk, is given a love potion by the evil Selena, who has set her eyes upon him. But instead, he falls in love with our Linda, Supergirl. Selena and Supergirl battle, and Selena sends Supergirl to the Phantom Zone. An old friend from Argo City, and that's Peter O'Toole's character, called Zoltar, was banished for Kara's mistake in losing the Omegadron. He helps set her free to face off evil Selena. She does so successfully and returns the Omegadron back to Argo City. And that's where I've left it, because the story is truly as simple as that. But it's full of bizarre questions and confusion. And
it's easily one of the weirder movies to watch on this whole thing.
It really, again, it thrusts you into the deep end, and you basically spend an hour being like, what? Did I miss something? Am I stupid? But no, the film just refuses to explain like anything to you.
It's like you're running down a river of buck wild bullshit, like just constantly awash with confusion on what is going on.
Yeah.
And yet at the same time, it's like, I'm like, I get it. Like there's something over there and she's trying to get it. But then like everyone is acting. I mean, I get that she is an alien, but all of the human characters are also acting like aliens. No one does things like people do.
I found this really confusing because the plot is simple, but the logic of the world is not simple at all.
The plot's simple because it kind of felt like I was watching like a season of a bad TV show from the 70s rather than a movie.
You could be watching a season of a bad TV show from 2015 also called Supergirl. I mean, it's up to you.
Hey.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was working at JB Hi-Fi, this is like my tagline now in the podcast. I remember when I was working at JB Hi-Fi. When I worked at JB Hi-Fi, we would put away seasons and seasons and seasons of Supergirl because no one wanted to buy it. Except that one time this really young, like 10-year-old boy kept buying seasons of it, and I thought it was really endearing. I was like, he loves Supergirl. I hope he's not sexualizing it and just romanticizes her, you know? Like, I hope he looks up to her, respects her. The logic of this universe baffled and confounded me. She has powers like being able to change in and out of clothes just by moving, like moving between shots or moving behind trees or through shrubs. That's a thing.
I mean, she emerges out of the ocean already wearing the Supergirl outfit, and no one bats an eye about that. What the fuck is with that?
That's where I stopped the film, and I was like, what? And I stopped and rewound. No, she just emerges in the Supergirl outfit. And by the way,
when she leaves her spaceship, she's under a river.
She takes to being Supergirl so well. She just really falls into it. She's like, yeah, great. I too am Supergirl. This is what happens to us when we reach Earth. We get this weird little uniform that we can create by existing here in this realm. And I have these powers now.
Similarly, I feel like I missed watching her make the mental leap of, I should attend a boarding school.
Me too. And I have to go back
she's
and forth.
Suddenly
this is
just
what I mean. The logic
enrolling
of the plot,
at a school.
The logic is a huge issue. I think that like we've watched films that look worse, that have worse performances, that have a worse cast. This film had an astounding cast. This had fucking Faye Dunaway. This had Peter O'Toole. This had a great cast of people, but it was just nonsense. It had Peter Cook. It had Peter Cook in it as Nigel the Warlock.
Yes.
That's huge.
That's why he looks familiar.
Marriage is a beautiful thing. Yeah, I think that it had a great cast and it was part of the Superman franchise, so it was geared to be successful. But the reason it's on this list is the nonsensical plot. The amount of questions that every viewer had. The fact that if you've never watched Superman before, you can't fathom what the fuck's going on. And even if you do, if you have watched Superman before, you still can't fathom what's going on.
Well, yeah, I got the impression, like, watching Selena at the beginning, I'm like, I feel like I'm missing a lot, but I know it's not from the first three Superman movies.
Selena
she's just from here.
Yeah, Selena's just a character from Supergirl. Like, she was created
They don't clarify until way too long that she lives in, like, a haunted house ride with her live-in partner, I guess.
Bianca, who's not her, she's like her companion. She's like her evil companion. Because Nigel, Nigel the Warlock, played by Peter Cook, is meant to be her boyfriend. Like, she's stuck in a relationship with him.
Yeah, but I mean, I wanted to come swinging out of the gate with this, but this is absolutely a queer film. Like, I don't give a shit how much they wanted to force Ethan on the audience in the back half of this movie. Like, very clearly to me, Selena and Bianca are like, oh yeah, you know, your aunt and your aunt's friend that they lived together their whole life, and like Supergirl and what was her name? Lucy Lane. Lucy Lane, like, Lucy Lane is incredibly queer-coded for the 80s, and then is just looking like...
She's just tomboyish. She's masked. She's wearing caps on the side, and, like, I honestly felt the same. I think Lucy is queer-coded. I think Bianca, who is the evil witch Selena, and by the way, Selena is a visual icon. Selena was giving me Angelica Houston from Witches vibes, and I literally kept thinking, she reminds me so much of Angelica Houston. And that's really funny for a piece of trivia I'll tell you about later. But I think Bianca was dressed like every drag queen wishes she could dress in RuPaul's Drag Race. I mean, she had the long earrings. She had the pink chiffon looking dress that was tied in at the waist and high collared. She just looked, and she had the mullet. I was like, she looks like every drag queen wishes they could look on Smith Street in Melbourne.
Absolutely.
So I loved Bianca's vibes. But Selena was just this glam, witchy goddess.
Yeah, and absolutely.
I loved Faye Dunaway in this, but she was giving, honestly, the worst performance of her entire life. But I loved her look.
She's giving the worst performance of her career, but she's Faye Dunaway, so that still made her the best performance in this movie.
Exactly. It's like she gave the worst performance, but I was still really enjoying watching Faye Dunaway in this film, because I was like, holy shit, it's Faye Dunaway and Peter Cook and Peter O'Toole. Like, Peter O'Toole, I don't care if this is shit. Like, these are great actors.
Yeah. But what I'm saying though is that Supergirl, when she's Linda, and Lucy Lane stare longingly at each other and care for each other a lot in this movie, including when Linda goes like. Lucy's on a date with Jimmy Olsen and then sees Linda and then runs across the street to go hold her. Then later, Linda starts kissing that guy Ethan, and Lucy looks over from the tractor like at that happening. And I'm like, no, come on, you can't set this up and then not pay it off.
I agree.
They're
because
cowards.
At the end, it felt really forced. The idea that Lucy was shacking up with Jimmy Olsen, who was played by Mark McClure, by the way. And Mark McClure, like, Jimmy Olsen's a recurring character in Superman 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. So he's the only character to reprise this role within this film from the other 3 Superman films. Mark McClure, I was like, who the fuck is this guy this whole film? He was Marty McFly's big brother in Back to the Future.
Oh.
Yeah, he's the guy that works in the fast food restaurant, and then when he comes back after his travels back in time, he works in a corporate office because now he's more successful.
Nice.
But that's, yeah. But like, I remember thinking at the end, Lucy shacks up with Jimmy Olsen, and then our lovely Supergirl turns around and kisses Ethan, who is a groundskeeper that is given a love potion by evil Selena. She kisses Ethan. And I remember me and Tony were like, they really just thrusted Het down our throats.
Yeah.
Like they really just pushed everybody together for those final scenes.
He also has zero personality. He looks like if Tom Cruise and Luke Wilson had a shared nephew.
I love that you said, do you recognize him at all? Have you seen him in anything else?
I mean, I recognized him in the sense that I thought he looked like those two people I just mentioned.
That guy, I was shocked. So we're talking about Ethan, the lead in this film that Supergirl ends up, kind of just pashing at the end and fucking off. They don't really end up together.
I do not understand what Ethan's deal was the whole movie.
Yeah,
I mean, he's not
just
fathom what was going on.
He's a hunky groundskeeper at the school that Selena takes a fancy to, so she gives him a love potion, but he ends up liking Supergirl instead, and Selena's pissed off, and they end up battling. And that fucked me out because I was like, I hate the idea of these two. We've got a female lead.
Out.
That fucked me out. I've talked about this, Michelle.
It's not what the phrase is.
That fucked me out because Selena and Supergirl are our 2 strong leads and villains, and they're fighting over a fucking man, and he's just this hunky groundskeeper with no personality, and it made me angry. But that guy, Michelle St. Clair, the guy that plays the groundskeeper that they're fighting over, is none other than Harry from Die Hard, the coke guzzling guy that works with diehards with John McClane's wife Holly. And he's like the guy that's always like doing coke in the office, and like he has that nice watch that he's showing off, and he gets killed by Hans. That guy.
Wow. That guy.
Yeah.
He looks very different with a beard.
When he turned up, I was like, that's the coke guzzler from Die Hard. And I know that because I watched Die Hard maybe 30 times last year because I was writing an action film.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, that's why. But yeah, he plays Ethan. But I hated the storyline about Ethan, and I hated that it derailed the film. I thought they were going to fight over something fun, exciting, and zesty. I thought it was going to be more about this, like, I don't know, their greed or their lust for power, but it ended up being about a fucking guy.
It was strange because it was like this is why I said it felt like a TV show, in that like until the 3rd act where she does get sent to the Phantom Zone, it feels like a series of episodes where Linda and her friend turned lover, Lucy, are at a boarding school, and then by night, Linda is actually Supergirl and fights off a series of monsters while we cut to Selena in a haunted ride for whatever reason, plotting from afar, going, how will I catch that Supergirl? She, by the way, she actually does what is my favorite thing in any comic book movie. I'm obsessed with when a character actually says the name of the hero in a way that is like them discovering it. Who's that Supergirl? Perfect. Hey, who's that guy fighting off all those Nazis? He's on our side. He's like some sort of Captain America. Yeah, like
okay, also, I need to bring this up because it's on my mind. The logic of this film, I know we've touched on it, it doesn't make sense because what I understand about this film, I watched it, I paid attention, I looked at the plot, I still couldn't fathom it. Supergirl, Kara, her real name, she arrives to Earth in full Supergirl garb. And then she observes these private schoolgirls playing like field hockey, and she's like, all right. And she walks behind a tree and emerges in her own little schoolgirl outfit with a black, like a brunette wig on. And then she enrolls in the girls' school. So that's how it happens. She observes them playing and she's like, cool, I'm going to be a private schoolgirl. So she becomes a private schoolgirl. She enrolls in this college or this high school. By happenstance, the evil warlock Nigel, played by Peter Cook, is a teacher there. And then also Selena and Nigel, who are in a relationship, happen to find the Omegadron when it lands on Earth.
No, he's her beard.
He's her beard, yeah. But I don't understand the coincidence of them finding the Omegadron and then her just happening to enroll in the school that he teaches at, and also happening to have Lucy being at that school, because I watch this film and there's no point in the film where she's doing any of this on purpose. Maybe she is, but I couldn't see a scene where you realize that she's made an actual, like, she has an intent to enroll in this school for a reason. It seems like everything is happy coincidence, and I fucking hate that. You can't do that.
She wanders through 70% of this movie.
She
like,
does.
just sort of falling forwards.
She does. The lead lady, her name's Helen Slater, was only in Superman related things and some TV shows because she wasn't very good. She was very lackluster, and her greatest claim to fame was being the first Supergirl. It sucked.
Yeah. I mean, she's very pretty, so that may have somewhat softened my critique of her performance.
She's very pretty, and I have to say, when I looked at a photo of her, Tony pointed out she had a really good jaw, and then I looked at her jaw and I realized she had the slightest cleft chin, and I was like, I wonder if that's why they cast her. She's got the slightest cleft chin, as does Christopher Reeve. And by the way, at the end of our last episode, I couldn't talk about Christopher Reeve because I had just spent a morning looking up the tragic tale of him breaking his spine, breaking his back, and then becoming an invalid, and then his wife sticking by him saying, I still love you, you're still you can't go, you can't go. And then he died after 9 years of fighting really hard for a happy existence, and he kept dying and coming back to life. He kept having these like near-death experiences, and they kept reviving him. He finally died 9 years later, and his wife found out she had lung cancer separate to everything, and she died 10 months after him.
Jeez.
The point is, when I read all of this, Claude woke up and he was like, why are you crying? And I was like, you're never allowed to ride a fucking horse, all right? Because I will stand by you, but it will break our marriage into smithereens. Anyway, it's too much for me. Christopher Reeve breaks my heart. I can't think about him. He was just so beautiful. But he had a cleft chin. My theory is...
Yeah. And also, the reason we were laughing through that story was because it's funny. It's funny.
Really funny. No, what's funny is me crying in bed and then having a 30-minute rant to the love of my life, demanding he never ride a horse because I'm crying over Christopher Reeve's tragic tale. What's not funny is a young, beautiful, cleft-chinned man becoming paralyzed from the neck down. That's not funny.
But that's why I'm laughing. It's funny.
It's not funny. But yeah, the logic of the world. It's terrible, it's stupid, it's flimsy. You spend the entire film questioning what's going on, but it has amazing actors. Do you want to hear some trivia?
Oh, yes, please.
IMDb trivia!
I didn't mean to ambush you. I just have a lot of trivia for you. In fact,
okay.
IMDb had 71 items that I had to whittle down.
Holy shit. The last couple I've done, I've had to sift through like 3 pieces of trivia.
Yeah, for sure. Because like everything we've done recently, it's like 5 pieces at best. Like,
yeah. For next Karate Kid, I went outside of IMDb to find trivia.
Sometimes you got to do that. 71 pieces. Are you ready for a couple of interesting pieces here?
I am. I'm fucking into it.
All right. Christopher Reeve.
Oh my god.
Is just so young. He bowed out just before filming began. He was slated to make a cameo as Superman, but he was unavailable. The film still features a picture of Reeve in costume in a brief cameo. I love that because I was expecting half of the time that Christopher Reeve was about to just pop in for a second. Like, just be like, hey, it's me on Earth, and I'm Clint Clark. Clint Clark is what I call him.
I'm
Mr. Clint Clark, the Superman.
I am Clint Clark, Superman.
Hey, it's me, Clint Clark. I'm Superman. Yeah, that's
I work at the Dorley Planet.
Hey, I'm here saving the world. Me, Clint Clark.
Oh, boy.
Taken too young. Such a beautiful man. The scene where Supergirl flies out of the lake that we were talking about, where
Yes.
she's in her little pod out of Argo City.
Traveling through the craziest piece of interdimensional planetary space.
It looks like they just filmed a lava lamp. Like they got a camera and just dropped it in a lava lamp because it looked like oil and water with lights shining through it. That's what it looked like visually.
Zoltar, when describing it, says like, oh yeah, Earth and stuff is in outer space. We're in inner space, which is the kind of thing that like linguistically sounds like something, but is completely vapid in meaning and mean when she travels through a lava lamp and then it opens and she's in a river in America is really confusing.
Well, the scene where Supergirl flies out of the lake after that strange interdimensional travel was actually a photograph of Helen Slater pasted on a wooden cutout. The wire yanking her cardboard cutout can be briefly seen in the shot. So it's just a fucking cardboard cutout that yanked out of the lake. And you can see it. I went back to rewatch the scene and you can really see it's just this like
oh my god,
schlocky cardboard cutout of her hands over her head.
They didn't do the normal thing you do when filming someone bursting out of water of just get them to jump in and then reverse it.
Yeah, I don't think they had that technology back in 1984.
Yeah, they didn't know how to reverse
was lost
film.
So this is fun because I thought the flying sequences were the worst special effect of the entire film, but I loved them for the romance. Helen Slater had to train 3 hours a day for 3 months to do the outdoor flying sequences where she was suspended by wires from a 200-foot tower crane.
Wow.
And that's huge because I thought the flying sequences, again, the actual like special effect of her flying over cities looked it's aged terribly, but I didn't care because I was still kind of swept away. I was like, whoa, she's like flying near these like wild stallions and brumbies and she's flying over New York City. And even though it looked shit, I didn't care because I think if I was the way you were with like Karate Kid, the next Karate Kid, if I was like an 8-year-old girl watching this in 1984, it would have blown my mind. It really would have, especially because I'm blonde and she's blonde.
Oh my God. What is it? I was going to judge you again for this, but I said I relate to people because if they have the same haircut. So I guess I'm the same.
Yeah, you like the next Karate Kid because she was brunette with a fringe. All right,
that's not the only reason.
Blonde woman with long hair and no fringe. I love this because I think this explains the insane gaps of logic with the eventual plot of the film. The original script had Supergirl trying to rescue Superman who had fallen ill due to Selina's magic. So the idea of like Selina casting a spell on Superman and Supergirl, his cousin, has to save him, I kind of get that. And I think that's probably why Selina made sense as a character. But taking that plotline out of it and just having Selina as a witch with no Superman involved was super bizarre.
Yeah, especially since, I mean, maybe it's more so in the first 3, but like, I don't know, a lot of comic book things try to find a line between a superhero is fundamentally just magic, right? But it does try and often make a distinction between superpowers and outright magic. And in this, it's like she's a witch. And I'm like, I didn't realize this was a magic is real universe because he has superpowers and she has superpowers because they're aliens. And that's a very different vibe. And also Nigel has powers because he has a very exotic tribal looking stick that they describe as pure evil. I don't like that we do that. I only just remembered that now, and that makes me really uncomfortable when we do that. We're like, oh, this thing is pure evil, and then it's just something that's clearly like
it's
quote unquote tribal. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree 100%. Here's a slice of trivia that offends all the tall girls that are listening to this, including me, Michelle. Brooke Shields was the first choice for the role of Supergirl, but she was turned down because of her 6-foot height. And that's bullshit.
It's Supergirl. She's superpowered.
Right? I'm like, isn't tall known to be attractive and like a quality that you want? Isn't being tall being more powerful? Why wouldn't you want your Supergirl to be fucking 6 foot?
She's literally Supergirl. She should be allowed to be tall. They just don't like it when women are tall.
They really don't.
And also, it's not about a framing thing because I distinctly saw at least one shot in this where Jimmy Olsen and Lucy Lane were in the same shot and they did not not put any fucking effort into framing for the height discrepancy whatsoever.
Because she was out of shot, right?
She was out of shot. You gotta frame them both in. Just
that's a note I had, and me and Tony talked about this. I was like, why didn't they bother to frame people's faces properly?
Just
because people
move
are always half out of shot all the time.
Yeah, you gotta pick, like, include the head or the chin. You have to pick one. Move them
the close-ups
further
were
back.
always just a bit too close. I was like, please pull back a tiny bit. I want to see the end of his chin, not half of his chin. It's bizarre.
But not casting Brooke Shields, it reminds me of how they used to literally prescribe cis women hormone treatments if they were getting too tall.
Oh, that's so sad.
So much of what we understand about physical gender is through enforcement and enforcement only.
God, I take so much pride in being 6 foot. I love it. I wish I was taller, and I wish I was blonder. I could be Supergirl. I could. Also, Brooke Shields is known to be a sex icon. What the fuck?
Yeah. I've gone through many phases of feeling very uncomfortable with the fact that I'm 6'2", which is not just tall. I would always joke, like, it's tall, but it's also like that borderline where it's too tall. But I like being tall. Tall's cool. Hell yeah. And also short's cool. People's sizes are fine is the whole overall point.
It sounds like confidence is waning the more you're talking about it.
Because I'm worried I'm not making the point.
Tall's cool.
It's hard for me to talk positively about myself. All right, leave me alone.
Fair enough. I love this. I couldn't stop thinking about this after I read this. Dolly Parton was offered $7 million to take the role of Selena, the witch, but she turned it down, claiming she could never play a witch.
What the fuck?
Yeah. I mean, Dolly Parton is a good Christian woman. I feel like it might go against her brand, perhaps, because there's a lot of, like, you know, demonic imagery around Selena as a role. I actually can't even imagine. I have to say, I can't imagine Dolly Parton in this role because Dolly Parton is too fucking good. She'd play Glenda the Good Witch. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you there. I hate, like, it's too pick and choosy. I mean, she's like, witches go against good Christian self. She also loves drag queens. And I'm like, both of these things are some Christians are okay with and some Christians are against. Both of these things are the devil's work, yeah. That's the point I was making. But that was I couldn't possibly think of a fact weirder than that one. $7 million? That must have been 50% of this budget to go to potentially Dolly Parton. I was wondering how they got Faye Dunaway. They must have given her at least 6 of the 7.
Yeah. I honestly think so. Dolly Parton is, I mean, she's so successful that in 1984 they offered her $7 million and she was like, I can't do that. It's like it's not within my brand, and she can just throw that money away. And I respect that and I love that. Here's a couple of people that were meant to play certain roles, or rather considered to play certain roles, or approached to play certain roles. John Travolta was approached to play Ethan, which is fun. Yeah. Demi Moore was slated to play Lucy Lane, but she opted out at the last moment.
What?
And Melanie Griffith, the daughter of Tippi Hedren and the mother of Dakota Johnson, was considered for the role of Supergirl.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's heaps of people that were like kind of in and out of this project, considered, slated, cast, removed, like lots of stars floating around this project.
It's so strange. I mean, I guess, like, for one thing, Superman 1 was a real cultural touchstone of the time. Then they very clearly just wanted to, like, throw a lot of stars at it. We do that now. Like, Hollywood just does that. They're like, if enough stars are in it, people will go watch it.
And it's true. I mean, because this had Faye Dunaway and Peter Cook and Peter O'Toole, I was like, yeah, this is great. Like, this is Faye Dunaway. Fuck yeah, I want to watch it. I love Network. I love Patty Chayefsky. I got really...
I'm Abigail. I love Patty Chayefsky. that's you. Because it's funny.
Now I'm getting bullied. This isn't right. I should be bullying you, you fucking brunette nerd.
How'd you know?
Speaking of Peter Cook, I was really excited that Peter Cook was in here because I love Peter Cook and Dudley Moore, and I get really excited by any English comedian being in anything. So apparently Dudley Moore, his comedic partner, was offered $4 million to play Zoltar.
Wow.
But he turned the offer down and suggested his former TV partner, Peter Cook. But Peter Cook went on instead to play Nigel. Peter Cook would later complain of Faye Dunaway's diva behavior on this film because he played her warlock boyfriend.
Yeah.
And her constant lack of punctuality resulting in delays in shooting. At one point, the producers even considered replacing Faye Dunaway with Angelica Houston.
Wow. Whoa.
Yeah, exactly. I find that so bizarre because, again, I was watching Faye Dunaway and I was like, this could easily be Angelica Houston. This is giving me mad Witches vibes.
Also, imagine being like so like unprofessional that they're like on Supergirl considering firing Faye Dunaway. Like,
yeah, exactly. Imagine being so intolerable that you, Faye Dunaway, may get fired for being intolerable as Faye Dunaway.
From Supergirl. Like, not from
Supergirl.
Beautiful high, but like from Supergirl.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. Here's another fun piece of trivia. I mean, I've got lots. I've really got to power through these. This is a fun piece of trivia, especially harkening back to the days of Elektra with Jennifer Garner.
Hey.
This is the first superhero film ever to feature a woman in the lead role.
I think you'll find if you look through BuzzFeed that was Wonder Woman, okay? It's the only film to ever star a woman.
BuzzFeed is a very reputable source. I'm sorry, I recant my hours and hours of research. My fingers got whittled to the bone by looking up snippets of information to retell to you, Michelle St. Clair, in this podcast, ratingdescending@gmail.com. Email us.
Thank you. Just do better next time. But that really was Michelle. How the discourse around Wonder Woman felt like. It's like Disney's first gay character. You'll have to search through 12 different movies to find it, but...
What is Disney's first gay character?
Well,
What's like Disney's
it depends
first
on your definition.
Gay-coded character? That's my big question for you.
Oh, well, that's a very different question because they've had like 8 movies in a row where they've said it's their first openly gay character, and then they.
I think you'll find it's Iago from The Lion King. So check your privilege, sweaty.
Iago is from Aladdin, though.
Oh fuck! Look, I don't fucking hate Disney. Get off my dick.
Do you mean Zazu? I think was his name or whatever from The Lion King, the bird. Or do you mean Iago, the bird from Aladdin? Okay, yeah,
Shut
from
up,
Lion
Michelle.
King.
Shut up. You only know that because you're gay. And as I said, gay-coded character.
Liking
really
the Disney Renaissance era is maybe the least gay thing about me.
Pretty. Yeah, that is straight culture, isn't it? Liking the Disney Renaissance era. That is straight girl culture, is loving like Beauty and the Beast from 1990, what, 1, 2?
I'm pretty sure
I've really got to get my dates down to nail this.
It's the first animated picture nominated for Best Picture.
1991, baby. Straight girl culture is loving Belle from Beauty and the Beast. And that's a fact.
I mean, I really liked Mulan, so I feel like that one at least tracks a little bit more.
Oh, Mulan is definitely fitting within the queer culture at the moment. That is queer-coded, for sure.
Nailed it.
It's cross-dressing, baby. A dude thinks he loves a dude. That's gay as fuck. And that's hot. Let me finish off this trivia. This is fucking taking an eon. Helen Slater, who played Supergirl, would later play Superman's biological mother, Lara, in Smallville, and Kara's adoptive mother, Eliza, in Supergirl, the TV show that began in 2015. So as I said, she went on to continue to reprise roles within the Superman universe, her claim to fame.
And because she hit the point of being a woman over 40 in LA, it was only as mothers. Yeah,
invisible at that point. That's fun. She developed her own superpower, which was becoming absolutely invisible to society when she aged over 45.
Yeah.
That's fun. Oh, wait.
Do you have any more fun trivia?
Yeah, I have really fun trivia. Here's another piece. I mean, I've got heaps, but this is the last 2. The film was nominated for 2 Razzie Awards, including Worst Actor for Peter O'Toole and Worst Actress for Faye Dunaway.
Okay, so but Peter O'Toole did a fucking sloppy job in this.
He really did. Faye Dunaway put her heart and soul into it, but it still wasn't enough. I find that this, like, the fact that this film made 2 of, I think, some of the better actors and actresses in the world get Razzie Awards, were nominated for Razzie Awards. That's pretty dire. That's
yeah. I watched this with Brooke. Like, she was feeling very sick, and even she, especially during the first bit, and even when it came back later, was like, "What the fuck is with this guy's performance?" Like, not recognizing that it was Peter O'Toole. Like, it's so off the wall, and not in a good, exciting actor choice way. He
really gave an awful performance. I remember, this is an anecdote. for ye listeners at home, which I hope is most of you. We're in a lockdown, you fucking fiends. Well, in Melbourne. My mum saw Peter O'Toole performing live in London in the 80s, and she said it was a highlight of her life because she'd always wanted to see Peter O'Toole acting live. He was clearly drunk because when he was delivering his lines, he was just waving back and forth on his feet, unable to remain still. It looked as if he was about to fall into the crowd. Unfortunately, my mother was positioned right underneath Peter O'Toole at the time, and she said she looked up at him and realized that she may potentially get crushed by the weight of Peter O'Toole collapsing on top of her, and she was terrified that she would die crushed under Peter O'Toole, so she was completely prepared to jump out of her seat at any moment. And I think that's a really nice insight into Peter O'Toole as a later actor.
I mean, watching this, he certainly seems like he was in his cups, to borrow an old phrase.
Yeah, this was definitely Peter O'Toole waving back and forth on stage in London in the 80s kind of Peter O'Toole, you know? This is the same era. In fact, I'm pretty sure my mum was in London in 1983, which is probably when this was getting filmed.
Well, there we go.
So, same vibes. This is my last piece of trivia for you, Michelle. Are you listening? Are you quite ready? Are you sitting comfortably?
I'm here. This episode's going to end up being longer than Supergirl itself, but I'm here for it. Let's do it.
Kara Zor-El uses the human identity of Linda Lee in this film. When seeking a last name for her identity, she names herself after Robert E. Lee, as she sees his picture and name in the principal's office. And I love that because Linda Lee names herself after a Confederate soldier. So I think we can safely dox Supergirl. I think she's cancelled.
I know I consciously registered at the time that it was a thing of Robert E. Lee. Yeah. I don't think I quite then processed, she really did just name herself after that Confederate general whose portrait was hanging in the principal's office.
Really odd decision on the screenwriter's part. 1984 was a different time. Peter O'Toole was crushing people left, right, and center. So
this is on the same spectrum as Jasper in Twilight as a Confederate for no reason. Like
Confederacy has a theme in this podcast. Our themes in this podcast are Confederate gold and Roger Ebert. Speaking of which, I've got some good reviews for you.
Reviews!
Supergirl holds a 9% approval rating and has Supergirl holds a 9% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Many of the reviews were harshly negative, with Dunaway's exceedingly campy performance especially reviled. The consensus reads, I know, that feels mean because I genuinely enjoyed Faye Dunaway despite it being the worst performance I've ever seen. The consensus reads, the effects are cheesy and Supergirl's wide-eyed, cheery heroine simply isn't interesting to watch for an hour and a half, which is very true because Helen Slater under-delivers completely.
Again, she was very, very pretty, so I may have not had the same severity of opinion on her performance.
She had the most luscious golden hair, but she was the biggest dullard.
I liked her brown curly hair.
I knew you would.
Shut the fuck up.
This is a review left by Dave Kerr. I have no source for where this was left. I think he is just a freelance critic, and I respect that. This is one comic book feature that doesn't fly. Zing!
Hey.
And here is a review left by the masterful Roger Ebert, who we love and know so dearly at this point. Why even go to the trouble of making a movie that feels like it's laughing at itself?
I get what he's trying to say, but also I love watching movies that are laughing at themselves.
Yeah, you would. Zing! That's what I say to everything you say now. You bullied me earlier. I've just got to get things back on track. I'm the Chad in this duo. Don't you forget it.
You are a big fan of disproportionate response.
Fuck off, Michelle.
In general.
This is my fucking episode. Here are some reviews left on IMDb. They are all 10 out of 10 reviews, and they speak right to the heart. This review was left by Seashells with a Z in 2000. Ooh. Not nearly as bad as the whiners would have you believe. That's the what the fuck? What do you call it?
I don't know. I don't know what you're trying to say.
What the fuck? My brain is dying.
Haters? What do you...
You know, that's the title. Like when you're sending an email, when you
like
have
the subject
a title
line?
for the email. Subject line. Okay. Thank you. I was going to say suburb. I think like my brain just saw the word and just fuzzed out the end of it. It was bizarre. Not nearly as bad as the whiners would have you believe is the subject line.
Nice.
This is not Citizen Kane, but it's well made for what it is. 10 out of 10.
Starting your 10 out of 10 with not Citizen Kane and that being the entirety of the review. Actually, that's king shit. That's good. I love that.
Well, you're going to love this one. This is another review left by Generations of Wine in 2018. And it's called An Honest Review. And it's also 10 out of 10. Yeah, this movie isn't any good. Technically, it's horrible. Some of the acting is horrible. The plot really stinks. There's a lot that really sucks about this movie. 10 out of 10.
What the fuck? I feel like we're getting to a point where people aren't actually changing their star rating. I think it like defaults to 10 or something because there's so many that are just negative.
And here's the last one, left by Boomer the Boss 9021515. 10 out of 10 review. Subject line is amazing retake on Superman. And God, I miss Ross Robinson in this very moment. I miss his clear insight, his objective opinion.
I want to know what Beaver 13678 thinks, you know?
Oh God, I miss Bevo too. This is Boomer the Boss. Amazing film, gripped from start to finish. Helen Slater and Faye Dunaway play Supergirl and the villain baddie. 10 out of 10.
It's probably the best elements of it. You know?
That was definitely the best review left out of these three.
Yeah, it was the only one that didn't start by going, you know.
But Michelle, I have a pressing question. What is your rating of this delicious, sumptuous 1984 Superman film?
One of my main thoughts when watching this was, like, I hate the sentiment in general that X art form is worse now because it's always biased. Like, movies are bad now, music is bad now. It's always biased, not just because I'm trying to make a fucking point.
I don't care.
Not just because we tend to overly appreciate and like the things we liked when we were children. So, you know, if you're over 10, then you just like what you liked when you were 10. But then the other side of it is also like we remember the good parts of things. Like when we think of 70s movies, we go, yeah, an era filled with classics because we only think of the classics. There's classics being made now. It's just we are aware of all of the bad shit coming out. This is one of the movies that, like, in the 80s, if you're someone who said the 80s were amazing, and I'm trying to make the point that they were the same amount of good as now, this is what I mean, because this is bad, and this is star-studded and probably funded. It's a spin-off comic book movie, and it's the 80s. It's also shit, but I also, on some level, would watch it again for its camp silly factor. I certainly would watch it as a group, you know, for a bad movie night. So I can't give it that low. I think I'm going to give it... a 3.8. It's not quite a 4 where it's like almost good because it is bad, but like there's something fun about the first 20 minutes and the last 15 minutes that I'd be willing to watch it again.
Good insight. Yes. I was really annoyed by the gaps in plot, and I felt really annoyed that I had to keep going back and restarting it because I couldn't understand what was happening. And then upon a further rewatch, I still couldn't understand what was happening because it was just the flaw of the film itself.
Yeah.
That frustrated me. But look, we had standout, and you can read that however you want, performances from Faye Dunaway, Peter O'Toole, and Peter Cook. And
notable performances.
And I've struck again. The bar isn't, was this a good film? The bar now is, could I tolerate watching it? Like, would I watch it again? Did it make me want to absolutely strangle and grow up myself like Sex and the City 2 did at the beginning of this year? Bad start to 2021 and very foreboding. So for me, because of the fun, hokey moments of this film, I'm going to give it like a solid 4.1. Like, it wasn't...
Wow.
I know, but I have no further comment.
Wow, this is one of those episodes where you hated it more and yet rated it higher.
Yeah, I didn't actually hate it that much.
Me neither, but it's not good.
I think it was fun. Like, it was stupid and the plot was stupid, but like the performances were terrible, but it almost just didn't matter. The cast was so good. I'm just baffled by it. I don't even know what to make of it. It's like I need a long sleep.
I think I at one point said to Brooke, this movie is an optical illusion because it forces you to not pay attention to it.
Yeah. 100%. It's like those optical illusions that you click on. Remember those like websites in like the early 2000s when the internet was still forging itself?
Yeah.
My favorite website was Click to Amuse, which was basically a website full of flash games and images of optical illusions. They had like 3 categories. It was flash games, news, and optical illusions.
I love those
And the optical illusions page was just image after image of things for you to stare at, open up and stare at. And because our Wi-Fi was so slow, or rather our broadband was so slow, you would basically click these images knowing that it would take maybe 10 minutes to slowly load up. So you were really excited for the optical illusion.
I hate how there's like 5 websites now. It's sad.
This film was that image of the young woman that also looks like an old crone, you know, that very particular optical illusion. That's my review of Supergirl.
Nice. Okay, I think that's accurate.
Michelle, that was Supergirl. Don't forget to follow us on social media. You can find us on Twitter at RateDescendPod. You can find us on TikTok at RatingDescending, or you can email us at ratingdescending@gmail.com.
I mean, I love and read all the emails, but you could also, if you wanted, find us and talk to us on our own social media. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at michelle.stclair.
And you can find me balls deep in your mom, up top.
Hey, I'm not going to high five my webcam, but still.
I'm also on Instagram under abigailjward.com. No, on Abigail J. Ward. I forgot how Instagram worked as a platform for a second. Move on.
Also, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps. And I'm going to continue my trend of plugging Kairos, which is a film that I edited that's on SBS On Demand. Think to yourself.
Keep plugging it.
Have I ever watched a movie with someone with Down syndrome as the lead character, let alone someone with a disability as the lead character? Because you're going to find that in this fucking movie. It's great.
It's effective. I mean, Tony was saying just today that because you keep plugging it on the podcast, he now wants to watch it with his, like, you know, the guy that he's having sex with on the regular but isn't his boyfriend, but they're probably going to shack up at some point, like that kind of guy.
Well,
yeah,
I would always refer to when we lived together them as a sex guest, and you hated that.
Well... Oh God, I don't want to delve into this fight again. This is opening too many old wounds. It's not fun when they're there and you're calling them that in front of them. That's not fun.
I'm sorry. I guess I'll just lie about the situation. Oh, you're some strange person in my house and I have no idea what you're doing.
Well, Michelle, what are we watching next week?
Next week, I'm so excited for this one because next week we are watching Grease 2.
Yeah, and we're going to have a very special guest star for that episode. She is a friend and a darling and someone I hold dear and close to my heart, but I'm not going to tell you who it is yet because it's a surprise. So you'll have to wait for next week, you absolute fucking fiends.
What I'm excited for is I feel like there were a lot of questions left open at the end of Grease that I'm really excited to finally get some answers on. Like, how do they fly? Where do they go?
Yeah, if Grease 2 isn't set on the planet Neptune where their red car arrives.
Wait, they didn't just fly somewhere else. They flew into space.
No! If that's not the beginning of Grease 2, I'm fucking suing.
Danny?